Saturday, March 1st, 1941. The 1st Wehrmacht units take up positions along the Bulgarian border. At the same time, King Boris and the Bulgarian Prime Minister, Bogdan Filov, arrive in Vienna to sign up to the Tripartite Pact formed by Germany, Italy, and Japan, which Slovakia, Romania, and Hungary have also joined. Heinrich Himmler, chief of the SS and of the German police, visits Oswiecim, Auschwitz. He orders the facilities to be expanded and the construction of a new camp at Birkenau. He also decides that prisoners who have been sick for more than 3 months should be included in the euthanasia program. In the United States, President Roosevelt declares at a press conference that the nation's steel production is sufficient to satisfy domestic demand, as well as the needs of the nations fighting for democracy. In North Africa, General de Gaulle's Free French troops from Chad, under General Philippe Leclerc, force an Italian surrender after a 22-day siege at the oasis of Kufra in southeast Libya. Meanwhile, General Erwin Rommel plans his first offensive actions. Sunday, March 2nd. Wehrmacht troops cross the river Danube from Romania and enter Bulgaria at different points along the border. They march towards the capital, Sofia, while several squadrons of Luftwaffe bombers fly over the city. At the same time, the Bulgarian Prime Minister, Bogdan Filov, declares in the parliament that the occupation of the country by German forces has been authorized for a limited period to avoid bloodshed and keep the peace in the Balkans. In Berlin, Wilhelm Keitel, chief of the OKW, the High Command of the Armed Forces, confirms that units of the Wehrmacht have entered Bulgarian territory with the consent of the country's government. Benito Mussolini arrives in Albania to inspect his troops. In London, Winston Churchill is very concerned about the German submarine war. The committee, created to take charge of the Battle of the Atlantic, with which he meets every week, analyzes the new wolf pack tactics of the U-boats, which are wreaking havoc among the convoys sailing to Britain. In Moscow, the American ambassador, Laurent Steinhardt, sends a message to the Russian Foreign Minister Molotov, informing him that, according to the information coming from the intelligence services, there can be no doubt that Germany will soon attack the Soviet Union. At the same time, Sumner Welles, the U.S. Undersecretary of State, passes on this information to the Soviet ambassador in Washington, Konstantin Umansky. Monday, March 3rd. Hitler issues a communique to all high-ranking commanders known as the Commissar's Decree. In it, he states that in the struggle against the Soviet Union, the conventional rules of war cannot be respected. He says that it must be borne in mind that this is a struggle between races and ideologies. Therefore, it must be undertaken with harshness and with no mercy. If a German soldier violates international law, he will be pardoned. The Russians are not signed up to the Hague Convention and therefore have no rights. Later that day, he holds a meeting with Keitel and Braustich, in which he warns that in the invasion of Russia, after the infantry and the armored divisions sweep through, the special forces are to take charge of eliminating the Jewish Bolshevik intelligentsia, an idea previously proposed by General Alfred Jodl, Chief of Operations Staff of the Wehrmacht. The Bulgarian government, after sending a telegraph expressing its gratitude to Hitler, orders the closure of all borders. King Boris and Prime Minister Filov meet the British ambassador, who informs them of his country's decision to break off diplomatic relations with Bulgaria. Meanwhile, the Bulgarian ambassador in Britain, Mochchilov, sends a telegraph to his government announcing his resignation. Tuesday, March 4th. Stalin's government expresses its concerns about the entry of German troops into Bulgaria and states that in the event of the Bulgarians seeking Soviet help, their plea would be rejected. Royal Navy ships carry out Operation Claymore, an attack against the Lofoten Islands, situated above the Arctic Circle, off the Norwegian coast, near Narvik. This audacious raid manages to destroy the fish oil factories used by the Germans to produce explosives. In addition, the British sink 10 ships and take 215 Wehrmacht soldiers prisoner. During the operation, valuable documents are found in the German ship Krebs. With this information, the code-breaking services at Bletchley Park, to the north of London, are able to better track German shipping. Prince Paul of Yugoslavia and Hitler meet for secret talks at the Berghof, the Nazi leader's residence in Obersalzberg, near Berchtesgaden. The Führer wants the Yugoslavs to join the Tripartite Pact and to allow passage of his troops through their territory on the way to Greece. In exchange, Yugoslavia will be given the port of Salonika and part of Greek Macedonia. In the Middle East, the Syrian government fears its territory might be invaded by the British, who have concentrated a large number of troops along the Palestinian border. Wednesday, March 5th. In Germany, Hitler issues Directive Number 24 relating to the Tripartite Pact. He encourages the Japanese government to go on the offensive as soon as possible against British colonies in the Far East. Following the meeting between Prince Paul and Hitler, the Yugoslav government orders the mobilization of 20 reserve units. In North Africa, following the visit to Greece of the British Foreign Secretary Anthony Eden and General John Dill, Chief of the Imperial General Staff, Operation Lustre begins. Units of the British 8th Army, commanded by General Archibald Wavell, begin to embark for Greece. A troop convoy sets off every 3 days, which represents a significant drain on the forces and equipment under Lieutenant General Philip Niem, defending the region of Cyrenaica in Libya. Taking advantage of the situation, Rommel sends several Stuka squadrons and bombers to attack the Allied troops in Agadabia. In East Africa, heavy fighting takes place between British and Italian forces in the area of Kerin in Eritrea, while in the west of Abyssinia, Ethiopia, in the region of Gojam, Allied troops occupy the fort of Burgi. From Tokyo, Russian spy Richard Sorge sends a message to Stalin, warning him that the German invasion will take place in mid-June. Thursday, March 6th. In London, the Secretary of State for War, David Margeson, declares in the House of Commons that there is still a very real threat of a German invasion. The Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, alarmed at the continuing success of the U-boats in the Battle of the Atlantic, orders the Admiralty to intensify its anti-submarine war, as Britain will be able to last out no more than 4 months under the present circumstances. In North Africa, British motorized forces repel the attack of a German tank detachment west of El Algilia in Libya. In Cairo, General Archibald Wavell and his staff focus on the movement of troops to Greece. Even though they are aware that German forces are being deployed in Libya, they do not believe they pose a threat in the short term. Wavell and the Chief of the Imperial General Staff, General John Dill, have ordered Lieutenant General Philip Neame, who is in charge of the defense of Cyrenaica, to withdraw to Benghazi in the event of an Italian-German offensive. Luftwaffe planes try to block the Suez Canal by dropping mines. In the Far East, an agreement is reached between Indochina and Thailand at the peace conference sponsored by Japan.